Wonderful.
I'm going to go ahead and record now as well. We're live on Facebook. All right. So, welcome back to the Astrology of Awakening to Renewal of Hope Summit. I am your co host, Melissa LaFera. And I hope, that everybody's been enjoying today's fabulous presentations. I know my head is reeling from all of those wonderful shares, which could be the moon squaring Neptune right now. But hey, we're just going to go with it and know that the cosmic gateway is open. And so I am pleased to introduce our next presenter here. We have Fern Vucinic, who is going to be speaking on herbal support for the lunar nodes. And just a quick mention about Fern is that she was one of the presenters that was selected from our call for presenters, where we put together a committee and reached out to the public to see who's out there, who's sharing fabulous things with the astrological community that needs to be elevated and seen and heard. And Fern was one of them. So we are delighted to have her here today. And Fern has been practicing earth-based pagan traditions since 1990 and have received advanced training and degrees in many modalities of healing, including acupressure, herbs, essential oils, energy healing, flower essences, and massage with Thai, Shiatsu, Ayurvedic, and Swedish from the McKinnon Body Therapy Center, and also received certification as an herbalist at the California School of Herbal Studies. And so Fern's writing has appeared in the Mountain Astrologer, the Llewellyn Book Annuals, Wellbeing Magazine, and Organic Spa Magazine. And she has an MA from Sonoma University and has been certified by Stephen Forrest as a master astrologer. And she's also a founding partner in Galaxy Girls events and a Fool's Journey retreat. So, with all those accolades under her belt, I give the floor to Fern.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I'm really happy to be here today. And I've really been enjoying the all of the presentations. They've been really inspiring, and just like you said, they've got my head kind of swirling in that moon Neptune square. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the transiting north nodes a little bit later on down the road, but I'll just let you all know right now that moon Neptune square is affecting my natal nodes right now. So I'm really feeling this energy. So I'm really delighted to be able to share this work with you all. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about me and my personal astrology and my life, and how that has informed what I'm going to share with you today. So I am a sun in Virgo in the 11th house and moon in Aquarius in the 5th house, and I have Libra rising. So I approach the sun, moon, and rising as in relationship to each other. So for me, the sun sign, as many of you will probably relate to, is, what makes me shine, what lights me up. And with sun in Virgo, it's going to be earth and plant related. However, having it in my 11th house, although I have a family background as farmers and gardeners, I didn't really get into the herbs until like maybe the last 5 to 10 years was when I really dived into herbal studies in a deeper way. And I attribute that to the 11th house, because for those of you who have planets in the 11th house, one of the most interesting things to me about the 11th house is that as the house of the future, oftentimes we will start to step in or embody the qualities of that house as we get older. So it's what I call the house of the late bloomer, among other things. So that part of me is something I've stepped into a little bit later. And I've got my moon in Aquarius in the 5th house. So that's something that I've related to for a really long time. I've been studying astrology for a little over 30 years. And astrology and the stars and the heavens and that whole Aquarian realm, activism is something I was involved in for a long time. That is with the moon there. And I did say the 11th house. With the moon in Aquarius, that's what feeds my soul. That's what opens up my heart. That's what I need to feel safe and comfortable. So how I bring the sun and the moon together, how I integrate them, how I share them with the world is through my Libra rising. And I've got Jupiter conjunct Libra rising from the 12th house. So I love to teach. I love to share what I know. But that Libra rising is, for me, it's the bridge between the earth below and the sky above, between my sun in Virgo and my moon in Aquarius. It's how I integrate and connect and share those two very essential parts of me with the world. So at the beginning of this event, when Christina was asking us all to set intentions about the event and what we wanted out of it, the word that came to mind for me was connection. And I'm sure that that's, I heard another presenter talk about that, and I'm sure it's the word that came up for many of you as well. It's such an important part of life. But when it came up, I was like, this again, it's always about connection. And for me, that is an essential part of the work that I do, is building connections between people, building connections between plants and planets. And I think part of the reason, besides my astrology, all the astrology is all connected, that this is such an important key piece for me has to do with my hearing loss. And this is something that I have a genetic hearing loss. I've been severely hard of hearing since birth. I wear 2 hearing aids and I read lips. And for me, having that hearing loss, and hearing is so associated with connection, that that has been something that's been a lifetime study for me. So it is all connected. Okay, so I am going to share with you some slides that have to do with connection between the earth and the sky. And one of the starting points that many of you are probably familiar with this quote, as above, so below. And to me, again, that is that connection of above and below. That quote comes from a 6th century Arabic source that was paraphrased in a text called the Emerald Tablet. And it comes from the Latin, that which is above is like to that which is below. And that which is below is like that which is above. So there is, to me, this quote, which is so ancient and so well known, really opens up a portal into the mysteries of life, and how what is here on earth, in the plants, in the mountains, and in the waters here on earth, is also reflected in the cosmos and the heavens above. So I want to ground what I share with you today in this quote. Okay, so I talked about how I've got Libra rising, and I'm going to just use my chart to shape what we talk about a little bit today. My Libra rising is ruled by a Venus in Cancer in the 10th house. So I love history. So I'm going to start off our talk about the nodes by talking a little bit about the history of the nodes in astrology, and also about the history of astrology and herbs, and how they have been integrated for so long. I'm pulling out a few key sources because otherwise we'd be here all day. I'd like to do a whole workshop just on the history of this, but I want to really get us into particular plants that go with the nodes. So first talk about history, and then we're going to get into the slides. I've got some interactive pieces where I'll be asking you some questions, and hopefully see some people's responses in the chat. And then we will wrap up our hour with a little bit of guidance on how to actually use some of the plants we're going to talk about. And I want to leave some time for some questions at the end also. Okay, so there's so much history of astrology and herbs, and trying to pick out the most relevant and key sources was definitely a challenge, but there are a few that stood out. And the reason I chose these is because these are the points in history where there's a record of oral tradition. So much, as many of you I'm sure know, so much of history has been recorded by the conquerors. So what we get in, the books and the transcripts and the texts and the libraries is a very narrow slice of what actually happened. So the ones that I'm going to share with you today are sources that have a they have a reputation as having been grounded in there's a stories about these sources that these particular people and traditions got their information and their knowledge from oral tradition, from the wise women, the witches, from the long kind of indigenous traditions that have been passed down throughout history, and that these various sources collected those and then put them into some kind of in this case books to pass that knowledge on. So Culpeper, Nicholas Culpeper, he was alive in the 1600s, very interesting character. He died when he was in his 40s, and he wrote a number of books. He was very prolific. Just for those of you who are astrologically fluent, he had his sun, Mercury, and Venus all in Scorpio, opposed by Pluto and Saturn in Taurus. So very intense guy with a very intense life story that I can't go into here because of time limitations, but I encourage you to read about it. But the key pieces I've picked out about him are that, number one, he made his astrological and herbal knowledge available freely to the people. Before his time in the 15th, early 1600s, a lot of that type of medicine was reserved for the elite and the rich, and he took it and made it accessible. He also is known for, among other works, writing Culpeper's Herbal. And Culpeper's Herbal, besides being a text that integrates astrology and herbs, in this book, he pulled out a number of different herbs and assigned each of them a planet, or in some cases also a sign. So he's one of the first people who made this accessible to the general public. And that text, what I was going to say here is that text has been continuously in print for 400 years. So besides the fact that it's a really interesting astrology herb, benchmark in history, just the fact that it's been in print that long is pretty amazing. So I wanted to really flag Culpeper in this astrology of herbs. And then next up, we've got folk astrology. And this was, I was made aware of folk astrology by a wonderful Appalachian herbalist named Phyllis Light. And she's got a number of books in print. She teaches widely. But in one of her books, she describes something called folk astrology. And this is based on oral traditions that originated in the South and the Midwest, but more in the Appalachians. And it integrates indigenous medicine from the Americas, from Africa, also from Europe, and assigns different personalities elements. So there's the fire personality, there's the air, there's the earth, there's the water. And each one, it's very similar to the sort of early doctors who had the different, melancholic, choleric, but this is more folky, it's more organic, it's more from the people. And so with these different personalities based on elements, each one has particular herbs or various treatments that are best suited for that particular element. Also in folk astrology, there was the use of astrological signs, particularly with the moon being in various signs, to guide not only healing techniques, but planting of medicinal plants, planting of crops, and so on. So the use of almanacs like Poor Richard's and the Old Farmer's Almanac, it was very integrated into this tradition, which is still alive today. And there are many modern herbalists who are also rediscovering this and utilizing it in their work. So I find this very exciting, and it's something that I wish I had another 10 years to just focus on and study. Okay, the last resource that I want to bring to your attention is the Carmina Gadelica, which is it was a collection of prayers and charms that was gathered in the Scottish Highlands in the 1800s, and by a man named Alexander Carmichael. And in this book, there are beautiful, beautiful. I highly recommend it. You can order it online. I found it serendipitously like 20 years ago, and have just really loved this book. But in it, there are beautiful prayers and charms, very poetic, that are like magical incantations to the plants and the medicinal herbs. And they mention the stars and, different Bridget, who's both a goddess and a saint. So I wanted to bring that one to your attention as well. And then just a few notable names. There's so many, but Hippocrates, Paracelsus, ancient Egyptian medicine, and the Babylonian and Mayan healing traditions, all of these cultures integrate herbal medicine with astrology. Okay, moving right along here. So that's our whirlwind tour through astrology and herbs through history. And next up, I'm going to talk about the history of the nodes in astrology, because while many of us know of the nodes from the evolutionary astrology traditions, the nodes have been used for thousands of years, mostly in the Vedic tradition, but we also see some mention of them in the early Babylonian astrology texts that have still survived. And in those early texts, there are very much, when they are mentioned, they're mentioned with the dragon, with the creation myths that describe a dragon, or in the Mayan, a plumed serpent, Quetzalcoatl, who in the early tradition, this dragon, this mythical being, is not described as negatively as the dragon was described in more recent history, particularly in the era of like the knight fighting the dragon. So as I've looked at dragon myths and plumed serpent stories, my personal opinion is that the dragon is the protective spirit of the earth. It's the spirit of the wild and free, which the earth is, at her kind of most essential self, the earth is wild. And so when we are born and we come into the earth, the nodes of the moon, which in Vedic astrology are known as the dragon's head and the dragon's tail, that's the moment when our spirit intersects with the earth spirit, and we take on a bit of that earth lesson. We're embodied into the earth, and now we're here to learn or grow or evolve in conjunction with that earth spirit. So to me, when we're born, the nodes mark that moment we come in to take on that spiritual journey that we've come to embody. So in Vedic astrology, the dragon's head is Rahu, dragon's tail is Ketu, And there's a bit more of a negative influence also in the Vedic around these nodes. Although that's up for debate. I would say different astrologers have different opinions about that. Another tangent I'm gonna resist and pull myself back to getting to our nodal stories and our herbal allies. Okay, so at a certain point in astrological history, the nodes kind of lost influence, and in Western astrology anyway, not so much in the Vedic. And then at a certain point, astrologers like Jeff Green and Stephen Forrest reintroduced the nodes into more popular astrology, but they drew a lot on the Vedic root, where the nodes had a karmic or evolutionary purpose, where we can use what we've learned in previous lifetimes, or as I've been really working with a lot lately, from our ancestral DNA patterning that we're here to heal, we can use that to evolve and grow throughout different lifetimes. Okay, so next up, why, or besides all the history I've mentioned, where we definitely have made a case that there's something to this integration and this blending of herbs of the earth below and astrology, the cosmos, the sky above. We know that there is something really powerful there, and part of that power is Saja Popom. I'm not sure I'm saying his name right, but he, many of you probably heard of him. He's really done a lot of great work in this area, and his school is evolutionary herbalism. He calls the connection between these two a tactile experience of the celestial. I love that language, really beautiful. And so besides the fact that there's something very magical and innately sacred, I think a lot of us really get that there's something to this connection between the sky above and the earth below. Other reasons that that motivated me to really head down this path are that as I did charts for clients over the last 20 years or so, I began to see that astrology by itself, a very good diagnostic tool, really able to use my Virgo to just kind of zero in and be like, this is going on, this is going on. But beyond the healing power of storytelling, which is profound, and I don't want to discount that, but I began to want something more. My Virgo wanted to give something to people to do, something tangible, something physical. And I wanted a remedy. Maybe not every astrologer goes down this route, but for the earth sign astrologers, there's a hunger for something that you can put your hands on and share with people. So remedies, that's one reason. And then the other thing that I found so beautiful is that, especially as I dove in deeper into my herbal studies with California School of Herbal Studies and becoming, certified herbalist, and learning about the plant, and then beginning to see the planetary and the sign correspondences, I realized that I was gaining a even deeper, after 30 years of being an astrologer, I was getting deeper levels of understanding of the planets and the cosmos through my deepening awareness of the plant. So this work is a really profound way to just go deeper into both. As you learn more about one, you get more about another, and you learn about that and you go to that. So I will share that with you as I get into the slides a little bit more, and I think you'll recognize that for yourself. And then more specifically with the North Node focus I'm bringing here today, the plants that I chose for this presentation, I was looking at them through the lens of not only strengthening the qualities of the North Node sign, and in this work, I'm just leaving the houses aside for the moment, for the sake of time and simplicity. But I chose the plant to strengthen the North Node sign, but to simultaneously heal the South Node. So some of you might be familiar with the concept of the doctrine of signatures, and then also there's the doctrine of contrary qualities, which using a plant that will do the opposite, perhaps, of what the sign is to heal. And we'll be talking more about that too. Okay, so this is a part where I want to pause and just open up the chat for a moment, because I think one of the best ways to understand your natal north node is to track the transiting north and south nodes. And I know that this year I've been really very aware of the Gemini north node, Sagittarius south node transit. Probably because earlier this year it was dead on squaring my natal north and south node. So I've gotten so much out of that, learning about how that effect of a transiting north and south node can really bring an awareness of, it's almost like having a second north node, the transiting one. You really get a sense of what's evolving and growing and opening up for you in a much more concentrated time frame, so you can kind of see it more clearly. So here's my question for you all who might be watching this, is when you think of Gemini, just the sign Gemini, what keywords, qualities, just intuitive hits come to you? So if you could just type, a word or two into the chat so that we can use this a little bit later on down the line, that would be great. And I'm just going to check on the chat if I can for a moment and see. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to read these out. Facts and details, curiosity, yes. Perception, communication, dexterity, intelligent, communication, learning, words, duality, connecting the dots, knowledge, yes, all of it. Student, moving with the breeze, love that image. Chatter and connection, trickster, doorways, beautiful. Youthful, like a bird. Oh, I love these images. Experience, connections, yes, thank you. So genuinely curious. So all of that, everything everyone said, that is Gemini. So here's my sort of challenge or invitation to you. As we come to the plant that goes with Gemini, jack of all trades, information about the things I need to keep up with to feel secure, yes. So as we come to the plant that is the ally for Gemini North Node, I will invite you to just notice how much the qualities of that plant, what it looks like, its growing pattern, the mythology and history of it, how much they relate to these qualities that you just named in the chat, because I think you will find a really beautiful synchronicity. Oh, okay. So before I get into that, I want to flag one more thing, which is that in Stephen Forrest's book, Yesterday's Sky, he quoted Michael Luton, who the wonderful, funny astrologer, who said of the nodes, the south node is the addiction and the north node is the meeting. And so there is an idea that the south node is where we get caught up or stuck in life, and the north node is our direction forward. So what I have to say about this is that I think that the herbs and plant medicine are like the coffee and the donuts that they serve at the meeting, and that they give us a little more comfort, a little more ease, and they give us energy to really embrace the journey of our north and south node. Okay. I know that probably most of you who are watching this know your north node, because right before we got started in the chat, people were, I was asking about a poll, which I'm just going to let go of, by the way, Melissa. We'll leave that be. I don't think we have time, but I wanted to know how many people knew the sign of their north node, because I would guess a lot, but I'm not going to assume everybody. And so just in case, oh, here it is. Woo! Okay, so if you could go ahead and fill out that poll right now. Do you know where your north node is? Yes or no? Really easy one. I just want to get a sense of the yeses and nos. And check out the chat a moment. There it is. Yeah, thanks, Georgia. Taurus moon. Yep, need those coffee and donuts. Okay, so Cabra. All right, so I'm not quite sure. Actually, I guess the poll has been launched, and I'm guessing I will see results momentarily. And so I will wait and see what pops up with those results, because I think they will soon. But this, oh, there we are. Yay. Okay. So 95% of you who are watching this know where your North Node is. So that's great. 5% of you do not. And that's super helpful to know that, because I have this little template here. And if you do not know where your North Node is and you want to know, take a screenshot of this slide. And basically go to astro.com or any other free chart service, create a free chart for yourself, look for the symbol that looks like a horseshoe, and then look for the sign glyph, which is here. And here is also, take a screenshot of this if you don't know your sign glyphs, because this is your astrological alphabet. And really good to know this if you're an astrology student. Okay, so that's my quickie lesson on how to find your North Node for the 5% watching this now and anybody watching later. Now we are going to start at the beginning, which is always Aries, and talking about the plant that goes with Aries, the herbal ally, which is nettles. And nettles leaves are at their best when the sun is in Aries. So that's right now. And nettles stimulate stagnant tissues, organs, and physical states. This herb is one of my favorite. I love it. I don't have Aries North Node, but I love this plant. And I've found it to be so powerful, healing in a lot of different ways. But just a personal example is I threw out my back last year, which I'd never done before. Tried everything, acupuncture, all my herbal medicine cabinet. Finally, I remember something one of my teachers had told me, that the Roman soldiers used to use, and as I'm talking, think about the archetypes that go with the sign. So Roman soldiers used this plant. They would sting themselves with it when they had any kind of, bad back or hurt, torn muscles, any kind of muscular skeletal issue. You take the leaves and you sting yourself, and there's I don't want to say poison, there's a chemical in the nettles that that is like a numbing sensation, and it really brings blood to the area and it heals it. It's amazing. So the herbalist Joe McDonald, I'm sorry, not the herbalist, the astrologer Joe McDonald, maybe it's an herbalist, I can't remember now, talks about the Libra South Node as avoiding conflict and fearing action. And nettles is a plant that stimulates the energetics of courage and movement. It stimulates our inner warrior, warrioress, by building blood. It tightens tissues. And one thing that Libra South Node and Aries North Node is here to learn is how to develop and incorporate boundaries into their lives. This also releases excess fluids, which we can think of as water or emotion. So Aries North Node is here to learn about taking risks, action, movement forward, and nettles provides the stimulation to do that. Okay, so this is an Aries North Node question. Again, I'm going to invite you to take a screenshot of this, but if you read quickly and you've got a quick answer and you would like to just type into the chat, if you have Aries North Node, where in your life can you take a risk, act courageously, or connect more deeply to you, is the Aries North Node question that goes with this nodal placement and herbal ally. Otherwise, you could use this as a journal prompt later and just take a screenshot or wait for the slideshow with the all access path. Now I'm going to move into Taurus, and we're almost in Taurus season. Venus is in Taurus. We've been talking about chocolate, and the plant that I chose for Taurus is plantain. So plantain is like Taurus. It's a very everyday plant. You can find it almost anywhere. Some people call it a weed. I feel, that makes me feel badly because I think plantain is so much more than a weed. It's such an amazing plant. And one of plantain's chief properties is that it soothes the Taurus-ruled throat area, supporting the throat chakra, which is something that Taurus North Node is here to learn about. Also, plantain is really powerful at pulling out foreign substances in the body. So I've heard stories of people who've had a piece of glass and, in their fingers for a year or something, and they wrapped it in plantain and the plantain pulled the glass out. To me, this reflects the Venus-ruled Taurus sign receptivity and ability to attract abundance and draw, manifest and draw abundance to itself. Also, plantain is really a very important plant in the kind of first aid kit to heal wounds. And this reflects to me Taurus's ability to be really present and grounded in the physical embodied realm. The actual physical doctrine of signatures type look of the plant reflect its Venusian rulership, and that it's got smooth leaves and kind of rounded structures, very, sensual Venus. There's a wonderful astrologer herbalist, Wharton Cunning, and she had this beautiful quote about plantain, that it helps remind us of the abundant truth that simple practices cultivate profound peace. And plantain is one of the 9 sacred herbs in Norse mythology that was given to humans by Woden. Okay, so moving right along here, this is a Taurus North Node question. And again, if you have Taurus North Node and you want to work with this, you can screenshot this, do a journal prompt type practice, or you can type into the chat right now. So, okay. I'm getting a little distracted because I really want to answer questions as we go. I love to answer questions in my teaching work as they come, but I want to make sure we get through these slides. So I'm going to have to come to any questions at the end and get into Gemini. Okay, so remembering at the beginning when we did a little bit of a crowdsourcing around Gemini qualities, some of the words that came up. And here we have elecampane, which another one of my, I love them all, but it's like trying to pick your favorite child. But here we go. So Gemini rules the lungs. One of elecampane's main qualities or, affinities in terms of the organs is lung healing. And elecampane is known to clear out all kinds of old gunk from the body. And this helps allow Gemini North Node to be open to new ideas. This is also, elecampane is a bitter, stimulating digestion. And so Gemini needs to digest, that's part of the Gemini piece, is to digest information and move it into new forms. This plant has an aphrodisiac quality. And one thing we know about Gemini is they're very flirty. If you've ever been flirted with by a Gemini, you will know what I'm talking about. This plant has a long history of association with the fair folk, the fairies. The Celts believe that elves inhabited the plant. And this goes along with the Gemini trickiness and deception, but also dexterity and, ability to move between the worlds. Elecampane clears wind in the body, detoxifying and purging. This mirrors Gemini's power to clarify and educate. And finally, Pliny advised us to eat some of the root every day to help digestion and cause mirth. The flower essence of this plant helps you to integrate new experiences. So this is such a wonderful plant. I wish I could talk about it more, but I'm going to move into your question for Gemini North Node. Again, screenshot if you'd like to do this later. But if you have Gemini North Node, and I know some of you do, I saw in the chat, how can you encourage curiosity, new information, and diverse points of view into your life? Okay. Now we've got Cancer, and Cancer marshmallow is the plant. This is such a beautiful plant. The energetic, cool, moist, and sweet. Doesn't that sound like the moon to you? It's soothing and nourishing. And what I love this, the leaves and roots have been used as a vegetable. Doesn't that sound like Cancer's desire to nurture and feed and cook and provide, you know? I love that. Softens and moistens the tissues, helps the vulnerable tissues, just like Cancer, vulnerable babies, by lubricating, cooling, and moistening. It's white like the moon. And so there's a lot more about the connection between Cancer and marshmallow. But again, I want to make sure I get to every one of them. So I'm just going to move to the questions for Cancer North Node, which is, what do you need to feel safe enough to let your emotions and imagination flow? How do you create a nest for yourself? So screenshot or type into the chat. Hopefully I have time to read some of these out at the end. Now we're moving into Leo. Leo, the plant I chose for Leo, the culpepper is also chose for Leo, and specifically, and this is one of the few in the culpepper herbal book, that he actually mentions not just a sign, but also a planet, which I think is really interesting. But motherwort, Latin name is Leonoris cardiaca, and that means lion-hearted. Motherwort, the common name, means mother's herb. So if you look at the Leonoris, is also a Greek word that means lion's tail, after the shaggy shape of the leaves. Sound like Leomut? This card, I mean, this plant is associated with the strength card in the tarot. And this is again, doctrine of signatures. Each leaf is similar to a heart, and the stem reddens through the season. Culpepper said about this, there's no better herb to take melancholy vapors from the heart and make a merry, cheerful soul. So I just thought this was such powerful North Node in Leo magic, and what a wonderful ally for this nodal placement. This herb is known to heal the physical heart. It tones the whole cardiovascular system and is also helpful for the emotional heart as well. Okay, Leo North Node question. How can you allow yourself to shine brightly, sharing your joy with the world? All right, screenshot it if you like, or type into the chat. And I'm going to move on to Virgo. So Virgo North Node, I chose Achilles, I spelled that wrong, sorry about that, y'all, Milleforium, and this plant is the boundary plant. This is for that Pisces South Node that comes into the world so open and sensitive, and helping teach about what it means to have an energetic container, also physical. This plant heals in so many levels. And this is related to Virgo as a healer of the physical body, connecting it to the wounded healer planetoid Chiron, who was Achilles' mentor in healing. There's a long historical association with this plant and witchcraft. It was used as a protection against evil spirits. The Irish hung it up on St. John's Eve to protect against illness and evil spirits. It also is a bitter and related to digestion. And as many of you know, Virgo rules the intestinal organs. It's #1 first aid plant. And it's associated in the tarot with the 4 of Wands for celebrating being in the moment, that simplicity of Virgo of enjoying the physical realm. And I love it that it creates a sense of kind of psychic armor and gentle psychic armor around you. So I think sometimes that Pisces South Node needs to learn how to just be in the physical moment, be embodied on the earth plane and feel safe there. And I think Yarrow can bring that. Okay. Your Virgo North Node questions. What grounds you and brings you a sense of accomplishment and order? How can you serve in tangible ways? Now, after Virgo, I just want to give everybody, and I realize I'm moving through this quickly. I apologize for that. I wish we had a little more time, but I want to get it all in the time frame I do have. And I just invite you to shake around a little bit, be in your body. If you need to look in a different direction, which I'm going to do right now, looking up and down, take a deep breath, got some water, just be in your body for just this moment away from the technical digital realm before we return to Libra. Libra North Node, the rose, of course. I'm guessing many of you could have would probably have picked this one as well. Now, the rose has so many healing properties, but in terms of going with Libra in the body is related to the kidneys, and the rose in Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, is known as a kidney tonic. Rose hips are used for UTI infections. The wonderful herbalist Penelope Odie calls rose the plant for those who lack love in their lives. Culpeper calls it a herb of Venus. Fossil evidence puts the rose at 35 million years old. I love that. This is another fun fact for you about the rose. Cleopatra soaked her ship's sails in rose water and filled her chambers with roses before visiting Mark Antony. And just thinking of Libra, Venus ruled Libra, not just about love and beauty and balance and all those wonderful Libra qualities, but also as what we value, and Venus being the planet of money and resources. I found it very interesting that roses were used as money in the 1600s. So here's softens the emotional heart, heals the physical heart. The balance of soft petals and sharp thorns reflect the balance rose brings both emotionally and physically. It's sweet, but it's also a bitter digestive. And rose nurtures beauty from the inside out, and has rose hips produce collagen, which, as some of you may know, are very good for your skin and healing your skin, keeping you beautiful. Okay. Libra North Node question. How do you encourage yourself to collaborate and connect with others? In what ways do you cultivate balance, beauty, and harmony in your life? Scorpio. So Scorpio, I assigned mugwort, and some of the common names for mugwort are cronewort, felon herb, wild wormwood, naughty man, and akio. I can't pronounce that properly, but in the Ayurvedic, nagadamani. So those common names definitely make me think of Scorpio. This plant is also one of the 9 sacred herbs. It's said to be used to protect against poisoning. It purges parasites and repels bugs. It was used in the Middle Ages as a magical protective herb. It's called the mother of herbs. Its Latin name is Artemisia vulgaris, associated with Artemis, the goddess of childbirth, which mirrors the Scorpio-ruled reproductive system in the body. It was used to cause abortions, thinking about Scorpio's association with death and life. And this is a plant that stimulates that ability to be in that cycle of transformation of life and death, to move away from Taurus South Node, kind of stuck in the routine and the comfort and the sameness, and to dive into the kind of powerful current of life that is always about transformation. And so this plant catalyzes transformation through endings and holds the power of life or death. It moves stuck energy in the body and the spirit with moxa. If you've ever gone to the acupuncturist and have them use moxa on your body, you know how it does that. And it amplifies psychic visions and dreams and deepens connection to the spirit realm, and also has been known to alter consciousness. All the magical powers of Scorpio in this plant. Scorpio North Node question. What helps you to feel more deeply into your own power? So screenshot this, write it in the chat. I'm going to move on to Sagittarius and dandelion. You'll be seeing a lot of dandelions now in the springtime. And dandelion is one of the primary liver herbs. Sagittarius, although Sagittarius is known to rule the thighs, it also rules in the internal organs of the body. It rules the liver. The yellow color of the bile, our doctrine of signatures, yellow flowers. Culpeper assigns dandelion to Jupiter. Sagittarius is ruling planet. So hoping to expand in life, and Sagittarius North Node is here to learn how to really take on more, to get bigger, to experience more, have adventures. And dandelion helps keep that moving, helps keep it healthy. The seeds of dandelion, like Sagittarius, travel long distances. They're expansive and good at crossing boundaries. The detoxification abilities of dandelion mirrors Sagittarius's glass half full superpower of transforming negative energy into positive. And Culpeper described dandelion as having an opening and cleansing quality, much like Sagittarius. Sagittarius questions. How can you allow yourself to expand, grow, and experience more? So, Capricorn, Solomon's seal. Capricorn in the body is associated with the knees. Culpeper assigned this plant to Saturn, and this plant is well known for being a very powerful medicine for the knees, the skeletal system, the muscles, the tendons, all the connective tissue. It decalcifies, and I love this for the Capricorn North Node because it helps build strength and structure and stability without doing too much of it. It can decalcify and recalcify, building up and also repairing bones. In Tibetan medicine, this plant is used to counteract aging in the body and mind. And that makes me think about Capricorn's ability to, as they get older, to act younger, and as they're young, to act older. I love that kind of, that time, the ability of the plant to heal the wounds of time. It strengthens the ability to hold structure in life, just as it strengthens physical structures of the body. And Solomon's seal, sometimes when I recommend it in my clinical practice with clients, I always tell people, be prepared. It doesn't always do this, but be prepared to spend some time with it. It can take up to 6 months, but just before it starts working. And this is so much like Capricorn, that Capricorn North Node teaches us patience and how to how the good things come with time and discipline and commitment. So this is much like Solomon's seal. Capricorn North Node question. Where in your life can you invite in responsibility, commitment, and sustainability? So screenshot or type into the chat if you read quickly. Aquarius. So Aquarius North Node, milky oat. And the milky oat medicine is so healing for the nervous system. It helps protect against energetic overwhelm, too much time spent on devices, in computer land. It's healing for mental depression. And just as Aquarius has a skill in making connections and networking and group building, milky oat supports the synapses in the nervous system and making good connections and not getting zapped or overwhelmed. The flower essence which is called wild oat, same thing, is good for when you're being spread in too many different directions and you're trying to find your own unique life path. So soothes nervous system and balances energetic tension. It grows everywhere in groups. You've seen it everywhere, which teaches the power of community, also an Aquarian lesson. And it's helpful for grounding in times of overwhelm and supporting your ability to function while innovating, an Aquarius an Aquarius attribute. And finally, before we move into what to do with these herbs and some, hopefully a little bit of time for questions and answers, we've got Pisces. Oops, nope, not yet. Aquarius North Node question. In what way do you feel free to be unique, different, and revolutionary? And now Pisces, Angelica. So just think about this. The Latin name of this plant is Angelica archangelica. So we're talking angels here. And as the name implies, Angelica is a plant that connects us to the higher realms. It has a protective spiritual energy that also strengthens our subtle bodies. It's supportive of the lymph system. Lymph cleansing corresponds with Pisces' rulership of the lymphatic system. It's what's known as an imaginal plant. If you ever have the opportunity to see one, you'll see that the stem is hollow, and plants who have hollow stems are said to connect us to the visioning realms. I love that. It's like we move up through the stem to connect to the heavens. The pungency and bitterness opens up our mind to new perspectives. The sweetness supports compassion and kindness. A drop of Angelica essential on the feet, remember Pisces rules the feet, is a potent way to experience Angelica's effects. And the Sami, the indigenous people of Sweden, used Angelica, excuse me, Sweden, Finland, that whole area, used Angelica to make a sacred flute. And I love that because Pisces is associated with music as well. Okay, I think we're gonna make it. So Pisces North Node question, what helps you to trust in spirit, let go, and flow? So my final question to you before I take some questions from you are, when you have a person, let's say it's romantic, let's say it's friendship, and you want to get to know them better, what do you do to get to know them? And you may want to type that into chat. You may just want to think about it. I've got some ideas on the next slide. Okay, and I'm going to open up the chat window now so I can see it and move into questions and stuff. Okay, spend as much time with them as I can. Yes, ask what music they listen to. Ask them their birth date. Ask them questions to make them laugh. All right, I know. Okay, their horoscopes, astrology, discover your common interest. Okay, so when you are getting, what's their favorite book? Go for a walk together. Love it. When you're getting to know the plants that go with your North Node placement, you are going to try some of the things that you said. You're going to get to know them. You're going to go for a walk with them. You're going to talk to them. And with these plants, are you going to ingest the plant just because it goes with your North Node? I'm going to say no, because you want to know that the physical qualities of the plant, the healing potential of it. If you have something physical that it addresses, then yes, ingest it with teas, tinctures, oxymels, any of the, cooking, using in your food. But if you don't have a physical concern that this plant addresses, and then I would suggest you relate to it on more of a spiritual or mental level, or even topically, by infusing it in an oil and using it for massage, adding it to your bath, using some of the essential oils of it. Learn about its history, just like you get to know a person. Ask it questions from a spiritual level, or learn about it in the history of the plant. You can research on its qualities, personality, habitat, the season of it, observing it. Spiritually, you can connect to it by just sitting with it and listening into what it has to say to you, using the flower essence of the plant, or communing with its energy body, whatever that means to you, especially if you're a Pisces type. It looks like I've got 1 minute for questions. And thank you so much for all these wonderful comments. I'm really, really pleased to see that people are receiving this well. And I want to just answer as quickly as I can some of the questions that came up in Q&A.
Yeah,
Okay.
so Fern, I was going to read just a few of them off because we can't get to all of them, but there's a couple that if you're okay with me presenting to you to answer, I'll go ahead and do that.
Yes. Um,
So let's see. So Trudy asks, would you say to balance the chart, good to have herbs that support signs where we're lacking? Like example, I have no main planets in Aries, so nettle is good for balancing.
let's see. I'm gonna see if I got this right. Would you say to balance the charts could ever find where we're lacking? I think in general, people know themselves the best. So if you feel like you need some fire and some stimulation and some courage, then yes, nettle is going to be a great plant for you. So yeah, you don't necessarily have to have Aries planets in your chart in order to benefit from the plant.
Love that. Oh, so many accolades, Fern, just so you know. So people are loving this. Alex asks, can these herbs be used to connect to placements other than our north node? Thank you.
Yes, I think that absolutely. I think that tracking the patterns, the energetic patterns on your chart and getting to know the herbs and their personalities, just like you would the planet, that you can help to use the plants to soothe, heal, and balance the parts of your chart that you feel need healing.
Perfect. Alda asks, could you work with the herb connected with your south node too? With south node in Virgo, can I work with yarrow to strengthen my south node, or should I focus on my north node plant?
Yeah, and that is something, it's a really good question because I thought a lot about that when I chose these plants. And I just want to flag that there are so many medicinal herbal plants, and many of them can be assigned to nodal placement. These are the ones that I chose based on my knowledge and my intuition. But I urge you to do this for yourself and come up with your own list because I think it's a wonderful teaching tool. But just specifically with your question, I thought yarrow healed both the south node in Pisces and the north node in Virgo. And I chose most of these plants for that dual action of healing south node wounds, but also strengthening the north node. So that's what I was going for when I chose that.
So the one you chose does double duty then.
Exactly.
Love it. Well, Kelly asked to talk about the different ways you can use each herb, but I think you addressed that in your last slide. AC asked, what about the house placements of the North Node with herbs? Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, but before we do that, I really want to make sure we get Ariel Rose's thing with motherwort, because that's the really important thing that she brought up. And I want
Sure.
to just encourage people for all of these plants. I didn't have time to get into this too much, but it's easily findable on Google to take a look at the contraindications. Most of them are very safe except for pregnancy and breastfeeding, but please do check the contraindications before you ingest them. And everything she said, yes, heart issues and matrilineal heart issues, but if you have chronic low blood pressure, please check that out. So thank you for flagging that. Also, motherwort, you want to be a little cautious with thyroid issues sometimes. And she also brought something up about Solomon's seal, and I wanted to flag that Solomon's seal is actually a plant that is not on the extinction list, but there's a limited supply. So I encourage people to either get a cultivated variety, even though the wild is wonderful, but unless you have tons of it, please don't go for that one. And the false is definitely a different genus. So you want to make sure about your supplier. And then, okay, back to that house placement. That is, I think, a wonderful topic for next year's astrological summit because it's just too big of a topic to touch on in an hour. So I just left the houses out of it in that case.
Nice. Oh, we got a teaser for Fern has more to share. And speaking of more to share, Fern has with her all access Pass bonus, which you can get obviously with the All Access Pass, is Herbal Allies for Nodal Healing, a PDF that shows the 12 zodiac signs to support your natal nodal placements with herbs. So if you want to learn more and get all these juicy details, definitely sign up for that All Access Pass to get Fern's bonus. So, all right, Fern, you're getting so people just love it, love it, love it.
Yay. I thank you so much. It's such a wonderful pleasure for me to share this information. And I love that it happened when Venus was in Taurus, because I'm just feeling the springtime and the plants really supporting this work.
Ah, that's beautiful. All right. Well, I am feeling Venus and Taurus too. Maybe it was me watching you eating that chocolate. I don't know. Chocolate was the magic here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So, all right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to see Fern's wonderful talk. We're going to be back in just under 30 minutes here for our final talk of the day, which will be Shu Yap, who is going to be talking on inner workings of transmutation, Venus becoming evening star. And so you are not going to want to miss that. So we'll see you back here in just a few. So thank you again, Fern.
take care. And I just wanted to say, I see that people put my website in there. Thank you so much. I forgot to show the last slide that had my website on it.
Yes, share that real quick. Just tell us.
Okay, let's see. It's right there.
Yeah, we need that. Wise Stars Astrology.
Yes, that's it. Oh, and I left off the .com, but I think people will figure it out. Thank you so much.
I love it. All right. So go visit Fern. I know I am going to, and I'll see you all back here shortly.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.